What's good, everybody? Welcome back to Gamecock Talk here on this channel. It's been a couple weeks. The season's over. We have a decent bowl game matchup against the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. I am pretty excited for that one. I wouldn't expect like a blowout or anything, and I think the Notre Dame is a quality football program. Obviously, they were able to upset Clemson earlier this year, so they have a good team. And I'm not really here to talk about that game too much today. I want to focus on some of the bigger issues going around right now with this football program, because there have been some big breaking news things that have happened with this football program, and I haven't really addressed any of them. Obviously, I've been making more gaming videos, stuff like that, since the season ended, but I do want to keep a balance on this channel of gaming content and also actual sports commentary, mostly for my three main teams in, the main sports, in my opinion: the Packers, the Bucks, and the Gamecocks. I know they're all from different areas. Well, the Gamecocks are from a completely different area. That's a long story. Maybe one day I'll tell you guys on like a live stream or something. But to begin with, and what is likely going to be the smaller portion of this video, the transfer portal, whether you like it or not, NIL, whether you like it or not, there is a big issue with the way it's run right now. There's not a lot of regulation. There's not a lot of basically reasoning for a player to stay if they get money offered elsewhere. There's not a lot you can do as far as that goes. Let me adjust the camera just a little bit. I'm going to bring it down right there. I think that works better. Yeah, it looks like it works better. So there's not a lot of, as far as the transfer portal and NIL goes, there's not a lot of regulations. There's not a lot of rules limiting stuff. There's not a lot of reasons that a guy would stay at a smaller program instead of transferring to a bigger program. And we've seen it both ways. We've seen guys, Corey Rucker, for example, coming from Arkansas State, I believe. I got some in my eye. Corey Rucker coming from Arkansas State, where he was an elite receiver at Arkansas State, and he doesn't really find a spot in the rotation this year due to injuries and whatnot, and comes back next year, and he is a guy that went from a small school, came to a bigger school because of opportunity. You've got Juice Wells going from the smaller, sure, they were coming up to FBS James Madison, but he came to South Carolina to look to play at a bigger level as far as football goes, and that I'm completely fine with. I do have issues with the idea of college players just leaving strictly on the idea of money. Not that I think either of the guys that I'm going to talk about in a few seconds are strictly doing that. I do have a bit of a problem with it. Not very much that we could do as a organization. I think the NCAA could do as an organization either, in order to stop that, because at the end of the day, if you're going to allow NIL, it's up to them. It's up to the player to decide where he wants to be. It's up to them to decide where they want to get the money from. And what contracts, they agree to with the NIL deals. So that is pretty much under their entire control. And there's not much we can do about that, I don't think, right now. I mean, maybe they find some type of regulations they could do, but at the moment, there's not a lot of stuff they can do to change that. And probably the biggest names that have entered the transfer portal, we've had a couple of guys here and there that have entered, and, guys that didn't get much playing time, guys that, whether they just had talent in front of them or they faced injury, stuff like that. No hatred towards them. No hatred towards any of these guys. I wish them the best. I want them all to succeed. But starting up, Jaheim Bell entered the transfer portal, and it's likely that he's going to end up going to a big school, because that guy is insanely talented. We didn't use him as much as we should have. I would have loved to see him return here to South Carolina. I don't blame him too much. It's a little questionable, but I understand, he can probably get more money elsewhere. He can probably get more time and, talent around him elsewhere, and I'm interested to see where he goes. Same thing with a guy like Marshawn Lloyd. Now, this one, the Jaheim Bell one, didn't hit me as hard as the Marshawn Lloyd one. I had watched him grow. I had watched him get through the injuries, the ACL tear, all that, and I felt optimistic, and I just did not expect him to leave. I didn't expect him to make this big decision over this offseason when it was really not even a thing that we thought about or a thing that we questioned. But as far as it goes, I mean, he is a good to great running back in college football. He's been injured most of his time here at South Carolina. Even this year, he missed a lot of games. I keep getting some in my eye. I don't know what it is. Even this year, though, Marshawn Lloyd missed a lot of games. Even his best career year, he missed a lot of games. So it's a bit of a double-edged sword. I would have loved for him to come back. At the same time, he's been injured a lot of the time. At the same time, he's probably wanting to get closer to home. Maybe he can find somewhere that's offering him a little bit more money. And with the way our offense performed at the end of the season there without him in the lineup, I'm not too worried. Not to be a slight towards him, not to say that he's not a talented guy, not to say that he is not a good football player. I just don't take it as hard as a lot of other people. I think it's probably more of a personal matter than a football program matter there for Marshawn Lloyd. So hate to see him leave, but I wish him the best. Same with Austin Stogner, a guy that was a graduate anyway, so whether he transferred or not, it wasn't going to matter really. If he was back in a Gamecock uniform, he likely wasn't going to be able to. And Stogner ended up going back to Oklahoma. Don't blame him at all for that. Same with Trevion Kenyon. He was stepping away from football. He suffered injuries. He hasn't been the top of the depth chart for a while now. And I completely don't hate on a guy that's making the decision to step away. But it's just a little tough now how thin this team is as far as the tight end room goes. Thankfully, we have Nate Atkins, though, remaining there. He is a guy that came on at the end of the year there and kind of found his groove going against Tennessee and against Clemson. So I'm happy to see a guy like that come back. And I will gladly watch him as our tight end next year if he can continue to pick up the pace and move like he did in those last few games. But overall, that is pretty much all the main transfer portal news around this South Carolina program. I don't have an actual list of all the names of guys that have entered the transfer portal, but outside of like Jaheim Bell and Marshawn Lloyd, those are the biggest names. Austin Stogner, I guess he isn't really much of or wasn't used as much of a weapon last year at South Carolina, so I'm not really mentioning or talking about him a ton. I don't really blame him. I completely understand his point of view or his stance on that. And as far as guys that have announced they're returning, as far as I know, the only ones so far that have officially announced they're returning are Amarian Brown and Marcellus Dial, I believe. Cam Smith obviously is going to the draft, and Zach Pickens is going to the draft as well. But Marcellus Dial is a big get back. That secondary is going to be extremely good next year as long as we have Darius Rush, which I believe he'll be returning, as long as we have Marcellus Dial, Nicky Emanori. I'm very excited for that. Secondary for us is going to continue to grow and continue to become an elite secondary in the SEC. I have no doubt about that. But at the end of the day, so far we haven't been hit by the transfer portal too much, and there is some other big news. As most of you all know, we did finally make a offensive coordinator hire, but I'm going to save that for another video in a couple of days to really research that, and I want to look into what Dow Loggins has to offer. I know it's not looking the greatest right now, but I do want to look at it a little bit and research it a little bit more, so I'm coming to you guys from a actual knowledgeable stance or a place where I know a good bit about the coach we're actually hiring. And yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say for this video. If you did enjoy this, if you enjoyed this type of content, please hit the like button and subscribe. Turn on post notifications so you never miss an upload. As always, thank you all for watching. If you do enjoy other type of content exclusively or including NCAA 14 or sports dynasties in general, check out my other content I upload. I thank you all for continuing to join me. Talk to you guys next time. Peace.